Good to be here, despite flight chaos and everything. So, Willem was right, the lights are really bright. So I'm supposed to talk about something AI, which is fun, but it's super hard, even harder than before, knowing where everybody's at. Like, who am I talking to? How much are you using it? How, what impact did it have on your job so far or not? So, despite the lights, I would love to see a little show of hands. Who here, whose job is it to produce code? Like developers is, I guess, what you said. Not former developers, but current developers. Oh, okay, thank you. Now, who of you are doing, how do I do this? Let's say, who's using Codex? All right, okay. Who's using Gemini CLI? Or anti-gravity? Same models, I guess. Okay. And who's using Claude? Ooh, okay, very interesting. Cool. Okay, cool. Now I've got a bit of an idea who I'm talking to. Okay. So, all of us, as I now know pretty much, know that it feels like magic to build something with an AI, and it just kind of works, and it's so cool, and it's fun, and we can get all our ideas done in days, and that's amazing. And the question that I started asking myself, and probably most of you too, is, am I going to be relevant even in, I don't know, 6 months, or next year, or in 5 years? Like, what am I doing now? Will that still be something I'll be doing then? So, as Hyvä, as a company, and Magento, does that even still matter? It's a good question. And of course, there's no answer yet, because who can say what will happen? Like anybody here? Probably not. Probably there's almost nobody. I won't say nobody, but probably nobody who really knows. So, in my experience, the things we build with AI aren't perfect. So they're pretty far from it, actually, to be honest. So it's building something quickly is possible, but it takes a lot of effort. So getting a store done in a day or a week wouldn't be ready for the complexities of a real e-commerce environment, because there's so much going on there. There's traffic spikes, there's DDoS attacks, there's rules and regulations across borders. You know all the complexities just as well as I do. And having something like Magento, turns out, so far for me, is actually kind of an advantage. So I've been building stuff for Magento now, same as you, for quite some time, and I've also done a bunch of greenfield projects that haven't been Magento specific, or related to Magento at all. And I found that the complexity of e-commerce that is covered by Magento, that's kind of inherent to the domain of e-commerce, AI is pretty good with that. All the conventions that exist about di.xml and layout.xml and plugins and coding styles and load orders and XML merging and all the stuff we deal with every day, and most of us have dealt with for many years, the AIs know that, and they can, they know how to deal with it. Their model has been trained on Stack Overflow and the dev docs and all the posts out there, so they feel pretty at home there, and what they produce is relatively reliable. So I think in this case, AI is actually working to our advantage with Magento, or Magento is an advantage for us working with AI compared to people building things from scratch or from less known environments. So what I wanted to share you today, because I really wasn't sure whom I was going to talk to, is basically our little journey of Hyvä as a company into AI. Because you could say we were kind of late starters. Until about 6 months ago, probably all of our developers were using a little bit of AI, some more, some less, some quite a bit. But we didn't, as a company, we weren't really setting any guidelines or rules. Just it basically was up to every individual developer how to deal with it. And we weren't sure how to approach this topic. It seemed to be important. So at every conference, every talk was about AI pretty much. Now I'm finally joining this circle. But yeah, we really didn't know what to do. And to be honest, at that time, the results weren't very convincing for me, at least, what people were producing with AI. So there was a lot of talk and not too much really to build on. But then, about 6 months ago, so November actually, I discovered this thing called skills, and I say I discovered, probably all of you already knew about it back then. But that really started to make a big difference for me, because with skills, agents become programmable, basically, right? The skills can be composed just like functions, and all the domain knowledge that we have can be built into it. And back then, of course, everything still was, we had much smaller context windows, so trying to keep this skills small and compact was really a thing. Now all the Claude users with 1 million token context windows feel that's no longer the case. So things are changing, but skills made a huge difference. And that really was a point where I felt like, okay, now this is something we can build on. It feels reliable. It's not bound to one specific harness or model. We can just really invest into this. So in practice, this whole idea of an agent picking up the right skill automatically and using it doesn't work very well. But honestly, for me, that doesn't matter, because I don't mind telling an agent, okay, use this skill to do that. That's fine, and that works very well. And makes the process kind of more dependable. So what we're doing now is basically, since a couple of months ago, we've got a Claude Team subscription for every developer. And most Fridays, not all, but most, we do like an AI talk where we get together and share experiences and demo things just to get more familiar and share best practice, because honestly, we're kind of discovering all of this together. It's been fun. The adoption of the use of the models for work over the company varies from developer to developer, and that's totally okay. Not everybody feels comfortable jumping straight in, or people are different, and that's fine. What we do expect from everybody, though, is getting more comfortable with it and using it more and more, and according linear productivity increase too, because that's just necessary. The first thing that we as a company then did was release the Hyvä UI tools repository on GitHub, which is a collection of cross-LLM skills, Hyvä specific, because even though the agents know Magento very well, they're not that familiar with the technicalities of Hyvä. Like a Hyvä CSP Alpine component, the agents can figure it out if you give them an example, but it takes much longer, uses more tokens, etc. So with these skills, make that pretty reproducible and nice. We can also use them internally for what we build. So that's kind of nice. We also have an internal skill repo, which is, well, a collection of skills. And it doesn't only, it also contains some tooling, so our developers can very easily install the stuff. We didn't opt for a Claude like marketplace, like many customers do, because like with customers, I mean other agencies or companies, because with our public repository, we want it to be cross-harness. So you can use it with Codex or Gemini or whatever you want. And that's why just making it a Claude plugin to install it as a marketplace doesn't make that much sense. Instead, you can clone it and then symlink it and update it. So there's a little script in there that does it for you. And I wanted our internal repo to do the same, so it's compatible. So our internal installer just does the same thing, but across both repositories. What's also important to us is that our developers only use a vetted set of skills and tools. So the first things that were actually put into this internal skill repo is a security review skill and set of scripts to vet any anything that we want to use, for example, I don't know, the caveman skill sets and so on. So what we'll do is we'll copy them, review them first with AI and then by human, and then copy them into our repo together with the security report, and then everybody can use it and feel safe. So that's in there too. So we only take these reviewed skills, the internal ones, and yeah, what we build ourselves into there. Everybody who wants to use a certain skill, I highly encourage everybody in the team to make a merge request into this internal skills repo. What we're also doing right now is we're introducing sandboxing. So we talked about that a couple of times now internally. The developers are picking this up. We're using Agent Safehouse for the Mac users. On Linux, it's Dockerized sandboxes. And then the next big step that we're working towards is generating compatibility modules with AI, scaling that up. So far, we've really relied on the community to manage all the compatibility modules, plus the vendors like MSD who do that out of the themselves. But for many extensions and, for example, for Hyvä checkout payment integrations, it's been on and off. And I understand it as an agency. If I build compatibility and the project finishes, I don't have the time to continue maintaining that integration. And that's been a pain point. So we want to use AI to enable us to take more responsibility there, especially in regards to checkout integrations, because they're key in different markets. If the payment providers for a certain region are supported well, then the checkout can be used. Without it, it's pretty useless for many merchants in that area. So we want to take responsibility there, and to do that, we're ramping up our CI pipelines. So in order to support a larger number of integrations ourselves and maintain them reliably, we need the infrastructure for it. So that means more CI, more testing, more internal skills to build that thing. So that's basically what we're working on right now. And what we're also working on is Slack support. And it's just a RAG basically. But what I found interesting is our documentation, even though we had a lot, wasn't really suited for chunking. First, who knows about RAGs or built some? Okay, so that's retrieval augmented generation. So on a topic that AI hasn't been trained on, you want to give it the right context and the right situation. You do this by taking something like documentation, chunking it into little bits, and making it discoverable for an agent. And then when somebody presents like a Slack thread, you give it the thread and somehow have to surface the right chunks that are suitable to answer whatever's being talked about. So that's called chunking, and our documentation wasn't really suited for that. So I started working across our documentation, optimizing it for RAG consumption and ingestion. And it was a really slow process. Of course, I built a skill for it, right, to optimize all these documentation pages, but I always reviewed all the results later, and it just was super slow. And it was good. I had to review it, since almost for every page, I still made manual tweaks afterwards. And I wasn't able to get the skill into a shape that that wasn't necessary anymore. It really just took, it made changes I didn't like, that were wrong. So for me, the thing I wanted to share here, why I'm talking about this, is we had one insight suddenly after some months where I said, hey, let's do a optimization review skill, which compares the original and the updated version, but then what it focuses on is just telling me anything where the meaning has changed, even in a subtle way. And that turned out to work really well. So instead of maybe being able to optimize 5 pages a day, I'm able to optimize 20 pages a day if I do that full time. Because the semantic meaning of documents is something agents can work with really well. And that worked great. So that was like this shift, going away from pure line-by-line comparison and doing the semantic comparison myself in my brain, asking the AI to surface that and get a meaning diff instead of a line diff. And that worked out great. So that was cool. So these are the kind of things that I'm looking for and trying to discover how to work with AI. That wasn't obvious. So as late starters, what would I say to somebody starting out with AI today? Well, skills are great. That's super simple to learn and get into, and they're extremely valuable. Like I said, they're programmable. Something I also would encourage someone to do is discuss things with the model, finding the magic phrases to make it work well with you. For me, it's this whole idea of discuss this topic with me back and forth, ask me open questions, and suddenly this process of discovery, I can do that interactively, which then can lead very nicely into something like a product spec or requirements documents that then can be used for the agent to autonomously build an initial implementation. Also, I would say prompt injection is real. It's so many bad actors out there. It's becoming more and more common. So just using skills that somebody on YouTube promotes is a recipe for disaster. Sooner or later, that's going to bite a lot of people in the asses, our collective asses. We're just on the beginning of the rise of AI malware. It's crazy. So it's good if we exercise due diligence and look at what we actually put into our AI brains before using it. And that's why a human in the loop is mandatory, not only for the output, but also for the input. We can still have AI help us, but accountability is key. So AI slop damages code bases, reputations, careers. It's so funny. Just today, a friend of mine who works in a hotel business, she got so angry because her managers are using AI to give out guidelines, and it's slop. It's AI slop and their work requirements. And they're like, yeah, I'm very familiar with it. It's been around in development work for longer, since we're the early adopters, especially in regards to other industries. And it's bad. It's really bad. AI slop is the worst. So we have to actively fight against it, and that takes humans. And finally, I'd say don't stress. Anything we're learning now will be different again in 6 months, and any skill that we are developing for ourselves, working with AI now, is super simple compared to something like Magento development. So we can actually relax, and if we don't pick up the latest right now, it's not a problem. We can still do that in 6 months or a year. We'll be fine. So yeah, that's all I have to say. I'm looking forward to talking more about this fun topic with you later on. Yeah, thanks. See you around.